Welcome to Pyramid One World Radio Network. You can call in and talk to our hosts by dialing 60547257666, then dial the access code 60860, and you're ready to be part of a worldwide movement to educate everyone listening to these shows. Let's begin dialing.
This is a Pyramid One International Network presentation. Hi, and welcome to Pyramid One Radio. Welcome to A View of Humanity with your host, Jamie Clark. Jamie Clark discovered that he had the gift of psychic intuition and could also communicate messages and feelings between people living and those who have left this physical plane of existence. In other words, he can communicate with those we have loved and lost. Now, with thousands of powerful connections made worldwide and years of experience as his guide, Jamie offers this healing phenomenon to those who need it most. People searching for life direction and guidance, as well as those seeking answers and closure from family and friends that have passed. How does Jamie's mediumship work? Let him tell you. Listen carefully. Triangulation of communication. He says, each of us is like a radio tuner. We have the ability to tune into many different channels. Before I read someone, I tune into our loved one's channel and send out an invitation of communication with you. Our souls are like fingerprints in a way that each of us is unique. Our loved ones know our soul print. And by our invitation and their realization, they now create a triangle of communication. Jamie says, Jamie to them to you, and you to Jamie. They know that Jamie is on and are receptive and will sometimes come early to understand Jamie's rules and regulations and how most effectively to communicate. Now that we are all on the same channel, let's work together as a team. Let me introduce to you, to the world, to the universe, Mr. Jamie Clark.
Yeah, Buffy.
Oh yeah, the man is there.
Hey, Carolyn, welcome. And thank you. Hey, I want to get into this real quick because I know this is going to fly by. Let me introduce Carolyn Gervais. And Carolyn, choose what?
Gervais, the S is silent.
Yeah, Gervais.
I'm marking that one right now. Thank you.
See, I knew that.
His fault, it's his name.
Ooh.
So, Carolyn is the author of 2 books, Life Before Life, How Soul Agreements Direct Our Destiny, and I Dreamed I Was Human, Awaking from the Illusion. Her channeled messages appear monthly in the Sedona Journal of Emergence. She has been actively involved as a student and teacher of metaphysical spirituality for more than 30 years. Carolyn is certified in spiritual psychology, clinical hypnotherapy, and has a master's degree in holistic nutrition. Carolyn has been a guest on numerous radio, TV, and podcast shows, and a speaker at self-help venues, revealing the many ways that we can awaken to new possibilities for living a more fulfilling life. Her work with clients include intuitive dream interpretation, spiritual counseling, and numerology charts. She is also a professional singer and has written and performed her original New Age music, which is on her CD, Face in the Mirror. Carolyn Gervais, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Carol and I met a while ago, and I've been looking forward to this opportunity. And you've got such a great vibe. You know, you're sitting there now and you're radiating a lot of energy in a beautiful way. You've also got strong connections to the angelic realm. So it's that, you know, vibrational frequency that's around. I just want to share it, go, no, you're already vibing that way, definitely. So, Bob, did you want to say anything before we get started with the fun?
I haven't spoken to her in, let me see, since 2015, and she's still as lovely as ever. And she sounds great. I mean, she was a singer like I was, and it was like, I mean, it was an instant bond, should I say. And when we were talking, it sounds like the craziest interview you'll ever hear in your life, but we had fun.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good, and it told so much. I mean, that thing's been played till it's, forget about it, it's wearing out.
So, excellent.
Which is good. This one will be on tomorrow, so.
Well, and it's nice to see because you've got a reference also, you know, how much we've grown, but to be able to share some insight, give a different perspective, not better or worse, but maybe different, that can give you some more insight. And as you and I were talking, Carolyn, you know, we've got a lot of the similar circumstances of our own spiritual growth and that type of a dynamic. When were you activated? When did you start putting the big picture together?
Well, actually, when I was about 4, when I realized I was in a human body, I wondered, it was like I blinked my eyes and I was in this human body. I realized I was in this human body. And I thought, well, why am I here? How did I get here? Why am I here? And I really didn't, it seemed unfamiliar to me in a lot of ways. I didn't know a lot of my family, who they were at that point. Well, actually, yeah, at 3, I did not know who my father was. I didn't know what he was in my life for. I didn't know he was my father. I only knew my mother and my twin sister. And my big sister, I didn't know she was my sister for a while until I got older and started putting things together. And I didn't want to be here. I had asked God, okay, this is an experience. Okay, now take me home, you know. But, and I figured if I asked God to take me home now, because I had a memory of what this world seems so chaotic and noisy, and I just didn't like the feel of it. But God didn't take me home. So I thought, okay, well, I guess if I'm supposed to be here, then I'm going to just listen to everything I hear and learn anything I can from this earth in order to figure out how to get back home. And that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Now, were you given soulscapes of awareness, meaning were you given enough nourishment, enough information and insight that where you come from, and you know everything is home because it's all the universe, but was that enough to nourish your soul along the way? Did you always have that kind of a void that you were coming into? Because for me, I'm right around you, and it was, did we lose her, Bob?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring her back into the picture. That was she just froze and got gone.
I know, that's why I wasn't sure if that was on yours too, because she froze in a certain position. I'm like, all right, that's, computers have been off, man, big time. But within that, you know, having, for me at 5 years old and being activated, I had my mom to be able to nourish and give me all of those informations and the insights and those tools and techniques that I at least had somebody here in this life, physical life, that I could connect to and vibe with. In this case, my mom, because we could study for 20 years. But not everyone has that opportunity to have that kind of a great connection or learning experience and learning curve for life. You know, we're like, okay, we're here, and we're prepared to, okay, there you go. Hey, thanks for helping her out.
Well, welcome. Thanks, Amy. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Say, we've got some distortion in the audio. I don't know what it is, but
No, we don't have it. We don't have it here. She's 100% here.
Okay.
Okay. She sounds good there?
Yes, she
Yeah, you
does.
sound great.
Okay. Great.
Perfect.
Now,
We'll cross our fingers and
Perfect.
look up.
Well, and as we were talking, I'm not sure if I was able to be heard, but were you given information and nourishment from your soulscape, meaning the energy and information of what you knew existed before you got here? Was that enough to nourish you from a young child into your adulthood of activation, or what? Because I had my mom at 5 years.
No. I had a pretty rough childhood, and it made me doubt myself. I believed in God, and I believed, I was not at home in my real home, but I thought, if I just keep, asking questions to the people around me, that maybe somebody could give me some answers as to how I could get home. But again, are we froze up?
No, you're fine.
No, you're
I'm
fine.
just listening.
Okay. But like I said, I had rough childhood, and it brought me down. And I suffered from depression for quite a while, but all the time I was always searching from the time I could think.
And I think that just shows your strength to not have that information to pull from. And for me, was having my mom for 20 years be able to study and do all of these dynamics where I knew I wasn't alone. You had to go through this in your own way to go, is anyone else even getting this? Because ain't that crazy.
And they weren't.
Yeah, and then you have to kind of be like, no, it's a beautiful day, and you don't want people to start getting that oddball, especially as a child. But as you were developing, even as a child and on your own, were you picking up information and insight from other people in your day-to-day living? And what I mean by that is, for me, as I was growing, as a child, I'd be like 6 or 7 years old, going up to strangers, going, hi, I know I don't know you, but may I say something to you? And they'd be like, oh, sure. And all of a sudden, and they're like, what, how do you know? And so it put them, in a very hypersensitive state. But some kid who's just coming up to them and doesn't know them, did you have circumstances like that? Was there?
Well, I asked everybody that was an adult in my family, how did we get here? Why are we here? And they said, well, we're not supposed to know the answers to those things. Only God knows that. And I said, why? Why does only God know it, And they said, it's just that way. And I said, you mean I'm never going to get answers to the questions I have about why we're here? And my grandfather would say no, and my parents would just say, go play. And and so I said, no, I'm not going to let God do that. I'm just going to keep praying to God and talking to God and insisting that he answer my questions. And yes, God did. As I got to be a teenager, I started studying everything I could get my hands on about life and God and anything metaphysical. And I taught myself how to meditate, and I even taught myself how to do hatha yoga, to where this person that was an expert in yoga said, how did you learn that? And I said, I just taught myself, And he said, that's amazing, because I could do all these different things.
Well, you get it from the source. I think that's a big thing. And in your teenage years, as you were starting to be communicated with, did you start to amplify your psychic intuitive abilities? Were you receiving more information? Were you also doing the mediumship along with the psychic? Or how was that working for you?
No, I wasn't. I knew God was always with me, and I knew that I was different because people treated me like I was kind of weird, and I was. I'm the opposite from my twin sister. And I know that coming in with her, we made an agreement to come in together because my father wanted me here because of a relationship we had before. He wanted me to teach him about love. And my twin sister wanted me to come in with her so we could have fun together. Everything for her was just about fun. It wasn't about anything serious. If it was fun, do it. If it's not fun, forget it, you know. And so she wanted me to keep doing this with her. And it got to the point where she started to try to control me because I was just different. You know, I was more quiet. I was more reserved. And she just kind of pushed me to the side and like she would get actually in front of me when I'm talking to somebody and block me so I couldn't talk to somebody. That was, yeah.
And
so yeah.
It sounds like you're referring to your book, which is Life Before Life. Is that a capacity? When did you get the idea to write this book, to communicate and share with humanity this perspective, which, you know, everything's the ocean is the droplet is the ocean. But to get them to understand that you don't always have to do everything on your own and
Right.
to be, you know, alone. Sometimes we're left alone to find ourselves, go, oh, when I'm alone, I'm all one. Yep.
Yeah. I started meditating at 17. You know, I started doing all that meditating. I had just had a baby, and I married my boyfriend. Wasn't planned, but you know, that's what happened. And so I thought, well, I love this child so much. I don't want this child to grow up being afraid of them being afraid of to be themselves and not understanding why they were here. So I just started asking God all kinds of questions. I asked God, I said, God, prove to me that you're real. And I started getting all kinds of experiences where I knew God was there, and I'd get these past life. I could remember some past lives, and I just started asking questions, and the answers would come to me, and that's how it's always been, because I knew I was going to be able to find out it, because I wasn't going to let God off the hook, you know. And so I just kept asking and asking, and I knew God would answer me at some point, and he always did. So everything that I write comes from my intuition, or the God part of me. When I sit down to write, you know, I don't know what I'm going to write, and I say, okay, God, tell me what to write. And then I start writing. Yeah. And I understand the concepts so well that I can put it. I mean, if anybody has any metaphysical training at all, I can put it in a very, I think, understandable way of saying something so that the person gets what I'm talking about. I don't know. Did you read any of my book?
Not yet. I have not had the opportunity to, but I'm looking forward to doing that. Okay. You know, and I think that brings up a very powerful point is when you can have your own life experience, we all have our own realities in this way, but when you get enough of those solid validations, go, man, no, I'm asking and I'm getting information. Were you receiving validations from the big guy, he, she, the all-encompassing oneness? Was it in conversations with others? Was it your own spiritual insight? Were you having what kinds of validations, if I can ask, maybe one or two, what were you getting that was so powerful?
It was from my own my God insight, and I always knew when I I was being able to write it in a way that was understandable. I knew when it was right, and I always do. I know when it's right, and I know it's coming from God or the higher part of me through my intuition and my heart. My heart feels open at the time too, and I feel my soul is right there too.
I think it's all one. I think that's a big,
Yeah, it's all one.
bring it together. Right. That's that soulscape of awareness, that solidness to go, hey, I can only speak for me. That's it. That's all I know. But hey, here's what I do and here's how it works. And when you can share that, and the real meaning of artistry besides your beautiful music is for anyone to see the picture or read those words and each walk away with their own individual reality of that. That is that creative flow. And for doing this, were you getting a response on your first book? Were people coming up to share some stories about life contracts and soul experiences, or was that happening with the books that you were writing?
Well, the first book was about, I believe that everything is, we're making it up as we go along, and that we're creating it as we go along, and that God gave us free will to create whatever we wanted this realm to be for us. And so, but in reality, it's all kind of like a dream. It's like we're making it up as we go along. Does that make sense? Yeah. And people would say, well, why have I experienced this, or why have I experienced that? And I tell them, everything in this realm is an experience that we have agreed to experience, or we say, no, I don't want that experience. And we'll have to maybe move back to that experience somewhere in this life or another to get that experience, because every experience is just the way we grow from experience. And people were saying, I say, you don't ever think that you were bad or something, and that's why you had to experience something that was painful, because all we're trying to do with every experience is balance ourselves on every aspect of us. Every level of us is trying to be balanced with every other level. And that's what experience gives us, that balance, whether it feels awful or it feels wonderful. And so they're all valid and they're all needed, however it feels, or we wouldn't be experiencing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. But Chi, my master guide, is calling you a channel. So not only are you using it, but you do channel information. And he also says with the music as well, it's not just the writing. So you've got a vibe there. And Chi's usually very insightful. So within that, as you're tapping in, when did you start the music? Was it after you had written the book or both books? Or how long have you been doing the music?
I've been doing music since I was 4 years old. So, and I was in a lot of bands, a lot of different kinds of bands, because I wanted to express myself. That's how I expressed my heart, through music at that time. And I still do. I'm still singing some. And it's how I express my emotions without somebody thinking you're being dramatic or something like that, because the love that I have for people, the love I have for God, comes through my voice, and I can feel it. And so when I sing, I'm loving the people that are right there with me. And I know they're getting it because I can feel it. My heart just expands.
Oh, right. How I agree.
And how would you say I feel? Not I think, I feel.
Yes.
To me, those feelings are the language of the mind. Words are the language of feelings are the language of the soul. And for that, were you a very emotional child? Or were you able to kind of have your checks and balances and, just kind of keep sauntering along? How did that work for you?
I was a child that always wanted to be the best and do the best I could as a human being. I mean, even as a child, I could not stand to see kids making fun of each other or kids hitting somebody. It just broke my heart to see it, So it was very hard for me to see how people treat each other in this world. And my parents were two people that it was hard to watch them. My father was overly disciplining as his kids. We got hit with anything and everything that he could grab, you know. And we even had our heads banged together. He'd bang our heads together for punishment. And my mother suffered from depression and alcoholism. So I was really trying to help my mom through my childhood. I would counsel her.
I certainly understand, because I grew up with exactly those circumstances. You know, like I do, you either repeat the pattern or you change it.
Right. And I knew if I did the opposite of my parents, I would be on the right track. That's what I've done.
My real parents, amazing. The stepfather was a D-bag. He always said, "You'll thank me someday." And I'm like, oh, shoot, he was freaking right. Because he taught me what not to do to people, man. Like, oh, Lord.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. But I was a good kid. I was not a bad kid. And my dad thought all kids were bad. He was a teacher, so he assumed all kids were brass.
That's like an oxymoron. What the?
Oh my! I agree with Jamie. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you know, I tried. I think for 1 week or 2 weeks to be so perfect, so my dad wouldn't hit me. I got hit every day for something, and I never knew what I was going to get hit for. So I tried to not do anything that would upset him. And I still got hit. Not every day, but at least 4 of those days out of that week, you know. And I thought, it's impossible to be that perfect and have a child's mind, you know. Because you don't know everything that's wrong or that they think is wrong.
And so right. as you were finding yourself within life at a younger age, did that insight, that inner spiritual awareness, did that help you any with the connections and interactions with the family, with the parents, with other people? Because, you know, I was like you when I was younger. I was very, very quiet. I don't know. I just always felt things about people, but I never wanted to speak in front of crowds at all. I was terrified. That sounds exactly like what was happening to you. How did you start to overcome that? What were some of the opportunities that got you to have enough guts to go, you know what? I want to share.
I just watched people all the time. Even in elementary school, I'd be out by myself. You know, I didn't have anybody to play with. And my twin sister always had people to play with, but she didn't want me around with her friends. So I just watched people, and I learned a lot by watching people. And you can tell just by watching people what they have been through, what they feel. They've been abused. They think they're dumb. They feel insecure. They feel like they don't fit in. And that was me. And so it was very easy for me to recognize that in other people, even grown-ups. I knew what they were feeling just by looking at their face. They were sad or depressed or unhappy and I wondered, why do they always look so unhappy? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought, well, you know, as I got into 4th grade, my sister's friends wanted me to be their friends too, because we were identical twins. So that's when I started coming out of my shell and opening up. And I started learning how to talk to people without being afraid to talk to them. And that just grew until I was an adult. I mean, my twin sister never has done anything, taken a risk in her life in the world, and I've done so many things, scared to death to do it, but I was bound and determined I was going to do it because I wanted to experience it.
You know, I think
it's taught me a lot.
Well, an interesting point is, you know, in this way, I kind of equate it as a soul experience going, this is 2 almost identical physical vehicles, bodies that look identical, yet you got 2 different personalities. That's kind of how our multidimensional selves are. It's a point. We're everywhere. But did that help you? Did you pull from some energy from your sister? Were you picking up information and insight closer to her because you were a twin, or did that not matter for you in this particular case of information?
well, we could read each other really good, and we knew what the other person was feeling. But as far as learning anything from my sister, no, because she didn't want people to like me, and so she would put me down, and so I felt like she wasn't good for me. So as I got older and out of high school, I went off on my own and just left her behind because she was holding me back, and I was being told that in my dreams, and through my perception, I knew that she was holding me back, and I had to get away from her to find out who I was without her around me. And that's what I did. And I'm still not around her.
Well, but have you communicated as you've grown into your own spirituality in your life? Have you been able to keep a connection with her at least?
No, she thinks completely opposite than me. She thinks she thinks that I'm evil. She thinks that horrible spirits talk through me and use my brain, and it's not really me talking. So she's scared of me. She's even called me a sorceress.
Well, you've been that in the past life, yeah, but
Yeah.
and I am seeing so many more people, in my experience, that's all I can speak about, but that are coming from all of these beautiful religions. Their pain is outweighing their fear of condemnation from the big guy. And they're like, me? I've never been to somebody who does what you do. But,
Right.
and I'm just me. I just do my thing. But I also just very quickly want to put them at ease to go, let's just get a basic meaning of mediumship. To me, a basic meaning is to consciously connect with a being, a spirit, an entity outside of a physical body. Is that decent? Like, yeah. Well, with that being well, right. But if you talk to God, Jesus, the angels, you're doing mediumship. And I'm willing to bet with that style, you're hoping and praying for life-changing miracles and instant communication. Now, how are we viewing it? And they're like, oh, yeah, that is a being spiritual outside of physical body. Well, but once they can see you, at least for me, that you're not one of them, and it's practical, right?
And
Then
they don't ever think I'm crazy or anything, because I'm around people that are more open, and I know how to talk to people to help open them up. I know what to say and how to say it. It's like I'm being told what to say and how to help them relax and not be nervous around me. Because I'll just go up to some,
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, I'll go into a mall, and it's like, you look at somebody and your eyes meet, and it's like you just fall in love with that person, no matter who they are or what they look like. And when that happens to me, that's God telling me, make some contact with this person somehow, either by saying, oh, I love your blouse, or I like your hair, or you really look pretty in that color, and stuff like that. And it breaks the ice. And then, and I just touch them. I like to touch people because I love them, and so I'll just pat them on the shoulder, actually give them a hug. And by the time that interaction is finished, I'm able to hug them, and they're receptive to it. So
yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing?
I don't do that with all guys. I don't do that with guys as much as I do women. My husband's usually with me, so it's men. I have to know them a little better, and I have to know that they don't think that I'm coming on to them or something, So I talk to them more, and then maybe pat them on the shoulder when I leave.
You got it. Keep that loving touch. But it is nice because you can understand, and for me, I'm right there with you, is I will do the best I can to understand where they're at. It's never judgment. It's understanding and compassion so that I can communicate, not just talk. And most of us are used to being talked to rather than talked with. And for me, that was a major thing because I had a lot of that internal dialogue going on. And, I have my own dynamics of channeling information and all that. What got you into writing I Dreamed I Was Human?
Well, I've been studying and meditating and praying and whatever I could do to open myself up so I could feel my soul. And once that happened, I knew all of a sudden, I knew that someday I was going to write books in my younger years, but I knew I wasn't ready yet for some years. And so the year that it happened, it's like my soul, I felt it so clearly and so there. And I knew, if I said to my husband, it's time for me to write a book now. And I knew the information was right there. I could feel it all inside of me, what I was going to write. I knew what to write before I even sat down at that point, because I wanted people to understand that heaven and hell are really one thing. And what makes something hell, and I don't believe that there is a hellish realm. I don't believe that. But we create that here on the earth by our fear and our misunderstanding of what God is. And so when we're suffering inside because we're afraid of something, then we create a kind of hellish energy around us.
And you'll live
in the world. And you live it, yeah. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that you have to realize that that can't hurt you any more than anything else. God, all there is God. And we take God, split him in half and say, okay, this side's good and this side's bad. When that's not true. It's all good, even if it feels bad. You understand what I'm saying? Because we learn from all of that. Yeah.
Yes, the essence of who we are, our beingness.
Yeah.
Now, with your spiritual awareness, because I'm very honored, I do train psychologists and psychiatrists to use their psychic abilities, which puts them way ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. What got you interested in being, in this way, a teacher, a psychologist?
Me? Yes. I love teaching, yes. And I have worked with a lot of people in my life, not as many as you, but I mean, I love helping people understand God better and understand metaphysics better, and why you don't have to be afraid of it. It's nothing that's going to hurt you. And teach them about this so that they're not afraid to open up their spiritual information that they have, that they're holding down because they're afraid of it.
It sounds like you learned your empowerment from your disempowerment.
Yes.
Hey, freak that. Watch this. I want to help others to help themselves too. You know, I'm about empowering, not enabling. And it's
right.
That thing to go, God, you know what? You've been through that and it didn't break you and you're still there.
Me, but it didn't. Yeah.
I feel, I know, I understand. And it's that connection to go, you know what? Frick that. I'm going to create my own reality within this. And for the second title, for your book, where do you want to go from that? What was the main aspect of having this next book that you wrote? I Dreamed I Was Human.
Oh, the first book or
no, I thought it was the second one. I dreamed, Life Before Life, I thought was the first one, and then I Dreamed I Was Human was second.
The other way around. Life Before Life is the second one. Okay.
Perfect. Within that, what got you to do this? Because are you into us having other lifetime experiences on other planets, other dimensions, other universes, or how have you perceived that for this planet?
Well, I look at it like we all have other aspects of ourself throughout the universe. And it's like pieces and parts of the same soul, you know, that out there all learning these different experiences. And in that way, at some point, they will all come together as a whole and move on to other realms and other energy realms where they could use that multi-dimensionality of themselves with other people and help others on other planets. Maybe you can call them planets, you can call them realms, because really it's all made up anyway. I mean, it's a realm because we see it with our eyes and we think it's real, and it is, but it's all energy that's formed into a certain thing so that we can see it and believe in it. And that's what I feel like coming to Earth is. We came to Earth to realize that we are spiritual beings in a human form, but that form is just temporary, and it's just energy. And we create that with our soul, our spirituality, our experiences, what we believe. We create all of this out here with all of that.
And so as you're talking to other people, do you start picking up on vibes of information that maybe, you're connected to the angelic realm more, there's some of the ascended masters, there's some ET. Do you get any of those soul prints of consciousness, or how does that work for you when you read for people or pick up information on people?
I can feel when people are very, like what you could say old souls or are evolved, because you can just tell by the way they move, the way they talk, the way their facial expressions. You can just tell when somebody is more evolved than they realize they really are. And I try to let them know that this is what I see in them, that they are here to bring that out. And that's why if they're around me, then I'm one person that might be able to help them open up to who they are as a spiritual being and not be afraid of it, and recreate themselves with that. And that's what I like to do, and that's why I love talking to people, because I want them to, pardon?
Yeah, well, within these, because you've got so much great information, I'm like, dang. For you in these alternate realities, what do you feel? What do they feel like? What do you see? What is that connection to an alternate reality? Is it as solid as this one, or how does that work for your awareness?
There's all different kinds of alternate realities, and it has to do with our beliefs, our experiences, what we're afraid of or not afraid of, what we believe in. But my experiences have been many. I mean, but the ones that I call alternate realities and parallel lives in my books, I'm still human. And I actually look like this when I go into an alternate reality. But what's happening is, it's really hard to explain, but it's like I move out of this present reality into another present reality that's different. Mm-hmm. But the only reason why I know it's different is because when I come back to the reality I left from, and somebody was with me at the time, I would tell them what I experienced, because I thought it was really happening in this reality. But it wasn't. It was going on at the same time, both realities. And this one was a little different than this one. And so when I told them what I experienced, like when my grandmother was dying in the hospital after a stroke, I wanted her to know how much I loved her and appreciated her before she died. And I wanted her to hear me consciously. And so something amazing happened, and that was I went into another alternate reality, and it was the same setting, but my grandmother opened her eyes and she could hear me, and I was talking to her, and I said, "Grandma, I love you so much, and I'm sorry if I ever hurt you, and didn't see you enough the last year you were alive. And she tried to say, I love you back to me, but her brain was kind of damaged from the stroke. And so she couldn't say it. And I said, I know you love me, Grandma. I know it, sweetie. Thank you so much. And the next thing I know, my sisters come into the hospital room. I thought they went to go get coffee or something. And I told them what happened. And they said, Carolyn, we never left this room. And we never went to get coffee. And Grandma never woke up and tried to talk. And I said, yes, she did, you know. So I knew I had been in another reality. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known it.
Right, you can get that slippage, and you're like, what the flag? No, I was just, what, huh? Yeah, I have that quite a bit as well. So you've got to find that balance point. This is a holographic universe. Bip, you can be in all places at once, man.
Right.
And for with that, because that can be a little disorienting for me once in a while. I'll be talking to somebody, and they're right behind me in a chair, and then I'm in my freaking bedroom. There's no chair on the bed. There's not. It's what the. And it was just like we're talking now, just as clear. You know, and that's that fine line between doing this work and the nut house. Don't kid yourself. There are some people.
Yeah. I think if I hadn't known what I knew at the time, I would have thought, what's wrong with you? Are you going crazy or something? But because I knew all of this stuff, because I'd been studying and having these experiences since I was 17 and younger. So I knew it was God showing me and allowing me to experience that with my grandmother, with her awake, because that's what I needed to forgive myself.
Now, here's interesting.
Yeah.
When you're talking, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm like, oh, yeah, but that's a good one. As you were talking with Grandma, and then you went into the ultimate reality, or parallel, but right here, and you got that connection. Did you ever want to try that circumstance with another person who you didn't have a good connection with? Or somebody that you did that you maybe never got to say things to, that you went into, like target another reality? Like we have a fingerprint, we have a soul print, it's all unique, there's no guesswork. But are you able to kind of tap into that interdimensionality and go for their soulscape of awareness too? Because we're all like the ocean and the droplet. Droplet is the ocean. Or has that not kind of crossed your mind at the moment?
Not in that way. Like I can tell when somebody I love pulls their love out of me, their love for me. I can feel them pull it right out of my solar plexus, and I can.
What do you mean by pull the love out of you? What is
like for my big sister didn't talk to me for a couple of years. Because she was afraid of things that I felt I knew, spiritual things that kind of scared her, because she's more Christian oriented than you know, more. She's afraid that the things that I do might be evil or something, or God wouldn't want me to be experiencing them. And so she kind of turned her back on me for a couple of years, which was really hard on me. But I knew she was going to do that because I felt it long before she did it. And I just kept telling my husband, it's going to happen. She's going to tear into me at some point. And before that happened, I was standing in the kitchen one day and I felt her love. I love her so much. And I felt her pull her love out of me, like she pulled it out of I can only explain it. It's like she just drained me, and I felt so sad, like she took her love away from me and pulled it out of me. That's the only way I can explain it.
So is there a possibility that you relinquished that you allowed it to happen? Because if people are able to take love out of you, that means everyone can be manipulated in every way. Or are there potential parameters?
I must have allowed it. I must have allowed it. I must have felt guilty that she thought something I was telling her that I thought would make her feel better, instead made her afraid of me. Like I said, I know that this planet is not going to end yet. I know this. I've been told this. Everybody thinks the world's going to come to an end. And I said, and I told my sister, and she was scared of it. And I told my sister, no, this world is, we're not ready to let go of this dimension yet. We haven't learned everything we need to learn from this dimension yet. So this dimension's going to be here, and so are we going to be here a lot longer until we know who we are as spiritual beings. And then we will move on, and not until then. And I don't know, I guess that kind of scared her. I don't know.
Wow, isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
From that practicality of spirituality, I go, man, it's just kind of 1 + 1's 2. And they're like, I don't know how that adds up for me. Have you been able to give people your own awareness? And again, you know, like I do, the more I know, the more I know. I don't know nothing, man, but I'll share my perspective. Have you been able to talk with somebody, and before they had talked to you, they were kind of in a negative state, and you know, the world's challenged and all of those dynamics. But by the end, because as a psychologist as well, you've got that ability to not only hear what they're saying, but you could feel what they mean from the fullness of that heart and soul. Has that helped you?
Yes.
And has that helped you to stand apart in your own way by using your own spiritual gifts to help other people in that very normal way?
Yes. Yes, it has. Because I know I'm there at that moment, and I'm being told what to say. And so I know I'm there to give them some hope or help them not be afraid, and explain that they don't have to be afraid because of this, this, and this, whatever that is.
And so when you're saying I'm being told, is that your higher self? Is that the universe? Is that your guide? Is that, do you have any idea, or are you just like, whatever?
To me, it's all one. It's all one. Everything is merged together. I mean, you know, and to pick it apart that's too human. You know, I think that's human when everything works together. And we have to learn to use all of those aspects of ourselves so we can understand what we want to understand, and maybe help other people understand. And that's what I want to do. Help other people not be afraid of being on this earth, or being in their bodies, or dying. It's nothing to be afraid of.
And it sounds like you're coming from where I did, which was my younger years, when I was so disempowered because I'd get beat every time with anything that was accessible. I certainly understand that now as an adult in my way, I have so much love and compassion and empowerment for others. It's effortless. My very disempowerment got me to the other end of the spectrum going, freaking watch this. I'm going to help people to help themselves. This is a better place, one person at a time. Did that help you in your own spiritual life experience to help heal you in different ways?
Yes, it made me stronger and stronger and stronger, and believe in myself until I knew when it was God. And I always know, like if I'm supposed to go up to a person in a mall or something, I can feel that so strong. And I tell my husband, he says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Just wait a minute. I'm being told to do this, so I do this." And I know why I'm doing it, because I can feel what the person needs. So I will find a way to talk to them and just give them love, or because a lot of times people are depressed and you can feel that coming from them. So if you can, or they feel like they're worthless or nobody cares about them or anything, what I do is I'll go up to them and I'll just start a conversation with them and make them feel loved. I want them to feel loved, because I think they get it from me, because I hug them and they hug me back. So they seem happier when it's done, you know.
And I think that we're able to do vice versa, meaning some people will target what it is to upset us, and you and I and others are there to empower others. Let's get that vibe going, and let's see what's going to make you happy or effective or lovable or any of those qualities. You know, we're not doing anything.
What I do.
Yeah. They do it themselves because so many people are like, you make me happy or you make me angry. You don't make me anything. I make myself happy or angry in response to you. And that's the kind of empowerment I love, is to realize.
And when we don't like ourselves, you're breaking up.
Oh, yeah. I know it's usually pretty good, but you're coming through nicely in here. Now, What is the difference between an alternate reality and a parallel reality?
Well, from my experiences, I gave them two different things. One, the parallel life is, and I've experienced both, I see it as another aspect of me that looks different, but it's another aspect of me, and I go into that alternate reality, and I know that, and I know that's another aspect of me, and I move through it like I'm supposed to. I know what I'm supposed to do, but again, I'll snap back to the present, and I'll remember that, especially if it's an aspect of me, but they look different. That one I can remember because they look different.
Now,
It helps me remember it.
And are you saying that it's your soul essence in another physical vehicle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Living at the same time?
Oh, yeah. Everything goes on at the same time. All lives go on at the same time. There is only now. It's all that exists.
And it goes so much more beyond that. But yes, I'm right there with you going, this is not the only vehicle that you exist in. That's all it is a vehicle to house a soul. That's how they do it on this planet. You go in their physical vehicles. There you go.
That's right.
Animal, human.
I call that a parallel because I'm a different aspect of myself.
Now, have you been able to consciously connect with a different you in another dimension to receive insight? Because I've seen in this physical body, I've seen one time in my life another me that was identical to this physical vehicle, standing in a kitchen drawing a dish with only blue shorts on, while I stood there in the living room, dining room with full sweatsuit and all that going, what the fuck? And literally my sight went into the other me looking at me and then back to me and gone. And I'm like, wow. And so I've always had those kinds of connections. Have you ever had any of those experiences?
Yes, I have. I've gone into alternate realities knowing that this person that I'm seeing is an aspect of me, but then there's this aspect of me at the same time together, and to share something. Like I lived in this apartment complex for probably 6 months, and I talked to this lady in the end apartment right next to my apartment. Every day I'd see her and I'd say hi to her, and she looked different than me, and she was older than me, probably about 30 years older than me, 25 years older than me. And I knew she was an aspect of me because she was very sad. It was a period in my life where I felt very alone. And so I wanted to befriend her so that she didn't feel so sad, So I tried to connect with her, but she was very shy, and she didn't really want to talk to me, even though I wanted to be friends with her. But a friend told me, came over one day, and I was telling her about she heard this coffee pot percolating through the wall in my kitchen. And she said, what is that noise? I said, oh, that's the lady in the end apartment coffee pot. I hear it every day.
She don't live there. Said she don't live there.
Yeah. Oh. And she says, Carolyn, you're in the end apartment. I said, no, I'm not. I live here. I know I'm not here. But she says, go out. I want you to look and see what apartment you're in. And I did. And I said, I'm not crazy. You're making me feel like I'm crazy. So I went out, and sure enough, I was in the end apartment. So that's how I've experienced that.
And how did you do after realizing you're not that crazy, but being able to balance between the realities? Because you start flipping back and forth. Which one am I in? How am I supposed to? What? Huh?
Well, that part disappeared, but I've always had this belief that God is always talking to me and training me and teaching me something. So I'm never afraid of the experience. So I just thought, okay, thank you, God, for that experience. That helps me have more understanding of what the universe is all about. So thank you for that. And I felt that this other aspect of me shared something of value with each other.
Right.
No matter how minute it might be, we shared energy. I shared my love with her. And I'm sure she showed me there's more to this reality than you think.
Yep. And seeing that at a different age, a different beingness, yet the same soul print of consciousness. I think that's a big thing because, like you're saying, that's that fine line between, am I freaking nuts or what? I thought I wasn't at the end department. I thought I was right there next to it. And you're like, nope. You're like, oh, shoot. What the? But also, once I was receiving my own validation and I got an outcome of a certain circumstance, I'm like, well, it's real because that's what the other one told me, and then it happened.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
It became my own self-validation to go, you're not going to get a lot of validation from others without them possibly thinking you're one of them.
Yeah, I was very careful who I told.
Yeah, you needed to be able to do that. But I think, like I do, once you start to accept yourself for who you are, it's a little bit easier for others to accept you.
Yeah, and I do. But, like my older sister, I have to be careful how I phrase things because she thinks I'm preaching to her. And so with metaphysics, in a metaphysical way, it has the same meaning of what she's saying, but it's just a different terminology or another. In my mind, it's a bigger way of looking at God, what God is, and so I have to be really careful. And so I've learned to talk with her terminology instead of mine, and because it means the same thing if I use her terminology. Yeah.
And to be able to communicate, not just talk. Right. Understand.
Yeah, we're real close. She came back into my life after 2 years, after she sucked her love out of me or whatever. And I was so glad because it was really hard on me, her not being in my life. Sure. And so I just saw her last night, and we have such a great time together. Her husband and my husband are very similar in personalities, so they get along really great too.
Excellent. It's nice when you can vibe with that in your own experience, going, I'm just being me. I don't know, that's all I can be. And people are like, yeah, but I like it. So, Carolyn, how can people get a hold of you?
But everything in my life.
How can people get a hold of you?
My Facebook page.
Which is? You sound like me. What?
I have it in front of me. Okay, go. Yeah, Doug has that. They can go to awakeningyou.com.
And on Facebook, she can go to facebook.com/Soul Agreements.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Bob's amazing. He got all that knowledge, man.
And on my website, they can see what I'm all about and the different things that I offer as far as how I can help them. And they can also hear me sing. I have one of my New Age songs on there on that website. And they can order my books from there. And they can email me from that site as well. There's a link to an email that'll go right to my regular email.
Awesome. Carolyn, I want to thank you very much for having some fun with us and sharing your expertise and insight. I think it's really nice to get different perspectives to go, man, it makes sense. So being you. I
I love
appreciate
it.
it. And I'd love to
Thank
have you
you.
on some other time if that's okay with you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Jamie.
You got it.
I'm so glad I met you at the fair.
I know how effortless it is. The book just ran into each other, and it's that easy. Definitely. Bobby?
I was going to
always good,
say,
sir.
and thank you for, we met, what, 5 years ago? 4 years ago? 4 years ago. So, I mean, it's like old friends week, one of those kind of things. It's kind
It's
of
nice
wild.
seeing you again, Bobby.
Oh, see that? We don't get older, we get better. See what
We
was
do.
you saying? Yeah. And him too.
Want to say goodbye
We
to
do.
Your husband in the back. Him too.
Jamie.
See ya. We'll see you soon, sir. Always a
Take
pleasure.
care.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Love
All
ya.
right, everybody. Hey, listen, a great show. Now, to everybody here, don't forget, you can pick this up right in the middle of the landing page starting tomorrow, probably somewhere around half of the day, because it's going to be done in Australia. And don't forget, in Australia, it's already tomorrow. So there you go. So thank you very much for everybody being here. And this is Bob Charles signing off for Pyramid One Radio. Thank you. God bless.